Okay, what's up, everybody? I'm Hunter. Thank you for joining us. We're joined today by LandVault and Dr. Satsuma and Boomer, two of my favorite people. They're absolutely brilliant. LandVault is an organization that is focused on voxel building, and they primarily build within Sandbox, as well as they're focused on many other metaverses that are coming out in the future. I'm very excited to talk to them because they're currently working on their first project, Creation Cards, which I have enjoyed understanding the different properties of and understand how the project works, as well as understanding more about what the metaverse kind of builder schema entitles. So I'm very excited to talk to you two today, get to know more about LandVault, get to know more about building in the metaverse, why it's important, and what's coming next for, I guess, the metaverse.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah, so I think what I'm first interested in is I've been spending a lot of time talking. We certainly hear a lot about like crypto voxel, Sandbox, and all the others that are starting to pop up. What in your mind differentiates each of them, and what is currently LandVault mostly focused on?
Yeah, I think I'll take that one. So I kind of look at it as like the big four right now: Sandbox, Somnium, Decentraland, and CryptoVoxel. And they all four have their own little quirks, their own little specialties or niches that they're trying to serve. Somnium, to start off, is probably the smallest. And it's because they're VR. You need a real high-tech kind of gaming rig and a VR setup. It's going to be super niche, and not a ton of people are going to be able to even afford the setup to kind of get in and really experience it. But it's kind of an amazing place. We haven't done any development yet in there, but we do own some land there. CryptoVoxels is another type of social metaverse. It's not a gaming metaverse, more voxelized, and it's probably going to be third on the list in terms of size and where they're at in relation to player count. Decentraland is kind of the first to market, but I think they are kind of in second place so far of what's currently out there. They're primarily a social metaverse, and the issue and the benefit of Decentraland is it is decentralized. So there's no one in charge. There's really not a ton of massive changes happening because of its decentralized nature. It is slowly making changes, but it takes a lot longer to do that. And whereas something like Sandbox is centralized, which has its pros and cons, but Sandbox is able to move a lot quicker, a lot nimbler, and has a lot of money kind of poured into their dev. They're bringing in a lot of IP, and they're kind of the cool kid in school right now.
They definitely have that vibe right now, especially watching what's happened with Snoop Dogg, right? Like that's been super exciting to watch unfold.
Oh, I mean, Atari to start, and then you had a lot of the Avatar projects that we're all kind of fans of be able to join in, and then it was Walking Dead, and now it's Snoop Dogg, and they're going to continue to add large IP coming into that. So and that is playing really off Minecraft, really. I mean, with the voxelized builds, and hundreds of millions of people play Minecraft. A portion of them probably would love to own a piece of whatever they were building and be able to monetize it. And that's kind of Sandbox's play in the metaverse space currently, where they sell land. But the nice part is they're flexible and allowing you to create what you want. But that's also the double-edged sword, is it's still pretty hard to create and build in Sandbox. But those are really the big ones that are out currently. There's several that Satsuma and I are very excited about that are coming. But that's really the big four right now if you think about what's available.
Yeah, so I would say specifically Sandbox, because that's what you guys are mostly focused on right now. What does the future kind of look like there? Because I know it's still not open to the public. A lot of people have questions around it. What do you guys see as like experts in the space? Like, what does the next couple of months look like? What should people be doing to start educating themselves on what Sandbox is, and even like on the internal currency of like Sand? Is there anything that they should be researching there?
Yeah, I think what we're going to see over the next few months is probably a mad rush as people realize that what seemed far away really isn't very far away. So the go live date for Sandbox is likely Q1 of this coming year. And we don't know the exact date, but I think what's going to happen is people won't know about it until they know about it. So it's a lot like a snowball rolling downhill that triggers an avalanche. So what I would say, if people aren't familiar with it, the simplest thing is just to go to sandbox.game and start looking around. Then there's a lot of good YouTube videos that are going to show you examples of what it's actually going to look like when it goes live. And then they have their game jams, of course, which they broadcast. So there's lots of opportunities to see what it's going to look like. The gameplay is not yet fully developed, so there will be more robust gameplay that comes over time. But I think people's window of opportunity to learn about land, to purchase land, to build is going to close a lot faster than they think.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme in the space, right? Like, oh, I have X amount of time. Oh, like that's so far off, and then it happens, and then it's a whole FOMO effect where people are like rushing. Oh crap! It's it's here.
Yeah, there's 160,000 parcels of land in Sandbox, and they've sold over 100,000 of those, and they're releasing more every week. So as land starts to become tied up, it's going to be harder to find large pieces of land. A lot of the land right now that they're selling in bigger chunks are going to partners, which are likely projects that maybe we know about, but it's likely going to be now that the proof of concept is already out and now the IP is coming. The big brands, the big celebrities are coming more en masse. And so it's going to be harder to acquire the bigger pieces of land. The one thing that most people don't realize, and we realize it as developers in Sandbox, is that the land is really big. And a 1x1 plot, just one single plot, is pretty massive.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. Again, I'm learning more and more about the metaverse because it's not something, and even Sandbox specifically. I hear 1x1 and I think that is so small. Like, how can you use a 1x1? I think of like almost a cardboard box, but it's much larger than that.
Oh, it's 96 by 96 in terms of their blocks, but you can also go. If I was thinking of an avatar in a game, you can go about 14 stories up, but you can also go about 4 stories down. So there's a lot of height and depth that you can build. And then there's just the concept of the 1x1 in terms of like Decentraland, like it's multiple sizes bigger than a 1x1 in Decentraland. And so when people are thinking, well, I need to have a 3x3 area and take a small estate, most projects won't even fill that out. But a lot of people are buying excess land because they're kind of treating it as this new digital real estate, and it's a new asset class, which to me is a finance real estate type nerd. I love that, and that's what initially drew me to the space. Obviously, as a gaming nerd, I love building and playing games. So, you combine those two together, and what we're doing is kind of a dream come true. But in terms of people that are buying and holding the land, those that are going to develop it, it is going to kind of blow them away when they really dig in and figure out like a 1x1 could house an entire project. Like it could be as simple as any one of these avatar projects could have maybe a 2x2 area and fill in potentially thousands of people. So the amount of space that is available is quite large, but people are buying it in mass quantities. And as that quantity starts to dwindle with their land sales coming to a close, bigger brands are becoming more aware. It's probably going to cause a shortage in terms of availability of land.
Yeah, I tell people, if you're comparing it to something in real life, a 1x1, I think of that as a city block. And most people don't need to own more than a city block, unless you are a major brand or you have a fairly sizable game.
Yeah, and I think, making that real world comparison is important because it's just so comparable. Like people think, oh, well, it's a game. Like, the metaverse isn't, you can't like look at the real world and how land development and sales of land, how is that going to play over into the metaverse? But it does seem like the more and more I dive into it, it's just the digital version, 100%. Would you, I mean, is that agreeable?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like anything that applies in like physical real estate is going to apply mostly in digital real estate. The location motto that a lot of us hear from real estate, and in terms of where do you want to buy, is 100% accurate in the digital space. Would you rather occupy a random corner in the map that not a lot of people are going to go to, or would you rather be located attached to Walking Dead that's going to drive potentially tens of thousands of players each day onto that property as they're crossing over trying to get to their destination, which then in turn says, well, how could I monetize the land? How could this be fun for me, or provide, potential income potential, or provide an income potential to monetize the lands? It's like, well, with more foot traffic, you have potential to sell more things. Maybe you have shops. We have Plaza that we've populated with about 60 different shops that people in our community can lease. There's over 4,000 NFT spots that could be sold there. And we have spots on the Plaza, which is on the Hub 1 in Sandbox, which is where every player loads into the zone. It's prime location. I'd much rather rent a shop or build a shop there than the outskirts of the map where not a lot of traffic is going to go. And just like in normal real estate, a lot of the traffic is centered in certain concentration areas. Whereas in the digital space, I think you're going to see kind of out in Euphoria and Sandbox, where all of the avatar projects are located, a ton of eyeballs are there, a ton of attention is going to be there.
Totally.
And that's where a lot of the traffic is going to go. Everyone loads into the same spot in Sandbox. In Hub 1, a lot of traffic is going to be there. In fact, all of it to start, and then they're going to disperse from there. And I think Atari's got enough of a presence that their large plot that they have kind of at the bottom middle of the map is probably going to drive a ton of traffic, because they're probably going to spend a lot of money making it pretty amazing. So you have some really good spots within the game that are probably going to generate 70 or 80% of the traffic. So I would rather be in those places than the outskirts. And that is, real estate 101 for the physical space.
And so I think a recurring theme here, and to pull this all back to LandVault, in my opinion, is we've been talking about land, but what are you doing with that land, right? Like, are you building on it? Are you monetizing on it? Are you building a brand? Are you building something that a community can come and meet at? Is it cool? Are eyeballs being drawn to it? And when you start to make this comparison to a blank 1x1 versus a 1x1 that's been built on, has assets on it, there's a value difference there to somebody who's like either trying to resell land or, just like stand out amongst the crowd. So how does LandVault then come into the discussion on, hey, I have this 1x1, now what?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, and I'll talk on a couple, and I think I'll let Sats talk on a few of them. So specifically, like with our development, we own land in strategic places. We utilized our real estate backgrounds to kind of see where we think the traffic is going to lie, and we wanted to take positions accordingly to where we think a lot of foot traffic would be. Then we wanted to optimize a lot of the buildings to generate income and revenue. So we built at the Plaza, like I said, a 3x2 area, which is 6 parcels of land and has a bunch of shops optimized for sales of NFTs. We have a Coliseum that'll have audio video streaming in that you can play concerts, and we can optimize by selling in-game wearables and in-game NFTs of the audio that might be happening from the artist that's playing. We created LandVault Tower, which is for those that don't want to buy land and they don't want to find developers, they can come and rent. We've got anywhere from 8 on one floor to full penthouses, all located in strategic locations in Sandbox. And so we're developing our own games. We're partnering with some really cool IP, like Alien Boys is an Avatar project that's going to sit in Avatar Land, and the Media Box guys and Goats. It's just fantastic partners. that are going to in turn bring their own communities in and help kind of bring traffic to the whole zone. So we're looking at this from real estate, physical real estate play, right? There's people that own land and they're earning nothing from that. And then there's people that develop the land and put shopping centers and all sorts of fun stuff on there that can drive more value. And then we've got a project that we just launched, and I'll let Sats talk about that, that'll allow kind of everyone to play in this arena with us.
Yeah, I can talk about the creation game. So the creation game started off as an idea. We were talking about one night about, those choose your own adventure books where you could make a decision and the whole storyline changes. So we wanted to do that. And the whole vision we had behind LandVault is we really wanted to involve the community. We didn't want it to be a studio that was just our ideas. We wanted to crowdsource and let people come along with us. And we've been trying to figure out how we can do that, practically speaking. So what we came up with is the creation game. So it's 9,000 creation cards. And then cards get you votes. So it's kind of along the lines of Jenkins to Ballet. People have been following that. So once you get those votes, we're going to vote on every aspect of the game. So what kind of game is it, right? What genre is it? Is it medieval? Is it Western? Is it outer space? Do you want to have avatars in it? Which avatars do you want to have in it? Do you want to have your avatar in it? What's it going to be called? So the whole thing, everyone's going to choose what we build. And we are really just the builders in this scenario. Now, if people need inspiration, we can certainly offer them that. We have a very experienced studio head who's got 20 years experience in multiple AAA titles. So if people need ideas, if they need inspiration, that's not an issue. But we think based on the people that we've met in the NFT community, they're going to have plenty of ideas.
There's no shortage of ideas in this space. I can assure you that. No shortage. So I guess another question here is like, what are the benefits of, owning and being part of the creation game? Like, what does a mint get you?
Mm-hmm. So some of it is being part of the creative process, right? You get to be part of this. As far as we know, it is the largest decentralized game design ever. So you are quite literally part of history. And towards that end, we're going to immortalize people's names on our lands. They're going to vote how they want to do that. We're going to give them an opportunity to maybe participate in the direction of things we do in the future. That's a possibility. They're going to get their own Sandbox avatar that they can use when running around Sandbox. They're always going to have the option to have access to that land. But I think the thing that is most exciting to us is that people who really get involved, they have the potential to share revenue. So what I mean by that is if anybody plays Roblox, you can actually earn revenue in Roblox if you develop. So we wanted to do something along those same lines. So for people who they want to do more than jump in the Discord and come to the calls, they really want to participate, they can share up to 30% of the net revenue from the game we're making in the creation game. So they have to come to 75% of the meetings, and we're going to make the meeting times flexible. We'll have multiple meetings for the same meeting, so it doesn't blow up people's lives. They have to vote in 75% of the votes, and then they have to contribute 2 things to the game. So they can contribute art, or they could contribute some kind of storyline. And, it doesn't need to be the next Harry Potter. It doesn't need to be a Picasso. But anything that winds up being incorporated that the community finds valuable, that would qualify. So those people become creators, and they can share 30% of the net revenue from this creation game.
It's super exciting. Like, there's not a lot of people with this, it's decentralized game development where the community's basically guiding this. I love the analogy of the books where you choose the next decision that changes the storyline. But there's benefit to it. And it's not just, hey, let me sit back and watch. There's incentive, like they're incentivized in some way to participate. And I think this also really drives from the fact for me, like, and, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a lot of people with great ideas. You have a lot of people that are looking at this whole new kind of like industry and opportunity that's in front of them. But if they're like, hey, I have this amazing idea, but I don't know how to build it, I don't know how to monetize it, I don't have the skills. If only I had a AAA studio behind me, right? It would be amazing. I'd make so much, now they have that opportunity. They just need part of the rest of the mint holders to agree with them, and all of a sudden, there they go.
Yeah, it turns the whole play to earn model to a create to earn model. So if they're active and they're helping us create, they're voting, they're participating, they're showing up, they've got great ideas. What gets created on those 9 parcels of land that are attached to Pong, which is going to have a ton of traffic from Pong itself. Any way that makes revenue, they'll end up getting a piece of that net revenue. And that is a really powerful thing. And then you add the fact that maybe they're an aspiring artist or a musician or anything. Like maybe they're a level designer and they worked at Blizzard and no one knows their name because they sat in the dungeon of Blizzard and no one has ever heard of them. But now they can come in and showcase their talents to the community. Maybe they're a concept artist and have some really cool stuff that they're trying to model out what other people in the community are trying to voice, but they're not talented enough to draw. Like that is probably going to happen. And all of a sudden that might turn into, they're creating their own one-of-one art, and people have gotten kind of noticed from them because they were helping develop something that an entire community was behind. I think it's going to revolutionize and change the entire way that at least sandbox development is going to be viewed, because who better to know what to develop than the community themselves and be able to vote on it through Web3, the beautiful thing of Web3, and be able to collaborate and create something. And they don't have to know how to code or to lay brick. Like we've got that covered, but they can come with their ideas and kind of inspire everyone. And what we're hoping happens is, Hunter, you come up with an idea that then, the next person, changes that idea a little bit, and 5 iterations down the road, we get something truly amazing that we look back and go, man, how did we get there? How did that happen? But you know what? It's awesome. It did. And let's go build it now.
Totally. Well, one, I love that you said it's create to earn instead of what I had kind of thought in my mind was like creation as a service. It might be a hybrid of both. But certainly that create to earn is something that's different than anything else we've seen. I think another point there that kind of got me excited, and I hope people that are listening to this can kind of like hone in on, is that this is really utility. Like this isn't just like, oh, I'm like part of this. Like there's utility here. And I think it also is, again, playing, maybe like agree, like maybe clarify here, like it's hybrid between a centralized and a community decentralized approach to building, right? Because it has to go through LandVault. Like you guys are like the builders at the end of the day who are like putting the final touches on this. The ideas are decentralized, like they're coming from the community and they're voting what they want. But like at the end of the day, you're doing it in like the best way possible that you think will like look the best and work the best. Do you think that this is like something that when we look at like Bored Ape Yacht Club and like Larva Labs, they're very much like a centralized, like we're going to build this and you'll either like it or hate it, but we're building it, and that's your only option. Where this is challenging that status quo of like, hey, the people, like this is for the people by the people.
I think the apes specifically missed a massive opportunity to bring the collective apes, hive mind, if you will, in and really crowdsource a bunch of cool stuff. The apes are probably going to create something that's truly amazing. They have the budget and the team around it to create something awesome in wherever they go, whatever metaverse, whatever build they're going to do. But the fact that they didn't pull the community at large and have the community, which is already so vested in it. I mean, look, we're all 3 apes here. We're super vested in the success and the IP and the brand. But how much more would we have been into it if we were allowed to vote? And what if my idea to have, I don't know, a banana house up in a tree that, was only exclusive to, red apes or something fun and cheesy or whatever. But how excited would I be if I showed up on the actual Bored Ape land and said, hey, you know what's cool? I thought of that idea. Do you think I'm probably going to sell my ape anytime soon? Probably not, right? It's one more reason to not, which then if we think about from a economic standpoint, to go back to from a financial outlook from a project, if I'm not going to sell my ape, that reduces the supply at least by one that's on the market. If enough people share that same collective view, that means the supply is going to decrease. The demand, even if it stayed the same, is going to have to increase the price. But in reality, that might even increase demand because now you get to have a say at what's created on some cool piece of land that is owned by the brand that you love. This is why I think it's going to change the way that the metaverse is actually being viewed and developed. Because I think projects and brands are going to see that their community knows what they want if they're given the rules of engagement and the ability to do it. And Web3 allows us to do that. And who better to tell you what's to be built on the land than the community you're trying to serve?
Totally agree with that. So how does that play into, and maybe you guys can't say, I know there's so much planned for LandVault. We were talking before the show, and this is kind of like part of our series to look into more of what LandVault's doing, to learn more about the metaverse, these different platforms, ways that users can engage with the metaverse currently, and what's to come. What's to come for LandVault as, more of these opportunities sprout up, or can you not divulge yet?
I'm like the worst at spelling stuff, so I'm going to let Sats take that.
Yeah, this is actually a running joke on how much alpha can he spell without me murdering him.
Well, I'm gonna have to do a boomer only interview, and I'll
that's probably for the best.
You're in so much trouble.
It's probably for the best. I mean, I would take a bullet for boomer, but there's also a good chance I'd be the one holding the gun. But so I can definitely tell you, what we're doing now is just phase one of a much broader plan. We're kind of testing the waters, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. We already have our end goal. We know what we are becoming, what we are building, and it is much bigger than what we've been doing so far. And now I'll let you try to pry information out of Boomer.
Oh, so no way. You set me up for that.
I did.
So what is, much bigger? Like, maybe explain the size of what you've been doing so far and like who you've been working with.
Well, I think part of, and I kind of hinted at, is I think projects are going to change in the way that they view their building and how I think they're going to do that. So I kind of touched on that, and we know projects are already starting to talk to us about what that could be. I think that there's a smaller side to this where you're going to have the ability to do semi-custom builds that we are actually working on that are going to allow people to, in a very affordable way, drop something on their land in Sandbox, but still have the personalization that they're going to, I think, honestly really enjoy and love. I also think that, with the creation game and how we're showing it that it can be built differently, it doesn't just stop at Sandbox. I think it can grow much larger than that into various metaverse or even just game dynamics of, hey, this is specifically for this actual game versus an entire landscaping game. It is almost like a trial run. I'll leave it at that. I think that if we can prove that people truly want utility and not just ETH, that they really want to participate in something that's bigger than themselves and still be rewarded if they are active in participating and actually creating, then I think it's going to be big enough that traditional game studios are going to have to pay attention.
And you're trying to be that non-traditional game studio, correct?
Absolutely.
Non-traditional is kind of all we do.
I love it. That's what wins in this space. The people that are willing to think outside the box, push the status quo, really draw outside the lines. And I highly doubt that there's many people in the NFT space, besides some of the artists, I'm putting my hands up, besides some of the artists who can draw within the lines in a coloring book. Like we make our own rules, right? We look at something and say, how can I break it and make it better? Kind of. I think it's a unique mentality in this space, especially when it's very cutting edge technology. And we're, fighting against like, hey, this is the way everything's been done. It works to some degree, but we want to do it differently and make it do it better, which is really exciting.
Or dare I say, like, we don't want to be greedy and have it be 100% about the entity, and that we would like it to be within the community, built by the community, shared within the community, and realizing that we might know a lot, but we're definitely not the smartest people in the room, and that there are people who are significantly better at lots of things than just us, all three of us sitting here. And if we could tap into each person's specialty and each person's little niche that they're really good at, and that might turn and make a good game a great game. And that, to me, is worth exploring. And I think traditional games are going to have a really hard time going and getting rid of the true 100% profit motivation that they have, because for decades they own the whole game. You do what they want or don't play their game. Whereas I think with this concept, it is, what kind of game do we want to create that we would all enjoy playing, and what kind of environment would we like to have? In Sandbox with our creation game, what if the collective said, well, we own 9 parcels here that we're building on. What if one of these was just for us? And it didn't have a profit motivation to it. It was a cool place that we could vote, that we all put our avatars up and we make this a cool Zen garden for all of ourselves. They could do that. Maybe they think that's a horrible idea. They'll have to vote on it. But then the other 8 parcels are all monetized with marketplaces and games and all sorts of fun things that maybe that's the direction they take. And
we're only months away from this, theoretically, correct? Like, this is not like hey, 3 years down the road we could potentially see stuff like this. This is like, once we start seeing Sandbox open up, there's potential for this type of development.
Absolutely. I mean, we will be developing it while Sandbox is not open. We can do that through the Game Maker app that we will develop everything through, and we will be done before Sandbox goes live. This property that with the 9 parcels, assuming that the community is active in voting, we stick to our guidelines and our timelines, we will be done by the end of Q1, which is when Sandbox is kind of given all of us a timeline for their leaving of alpha or whatever you want to call it, to the game is now open and live. And one of the interesting things is that because there's so much land and there aren't that many builders, to be honest, not all the land is going to be developed. And so there's going to be a lot of, quote unquote, market share to be had, if you will, with people's attention, right? If you come in and let's say that only half the game has been developed by the owners of the land, well, there's only so many places that the players can go play. And so if this is done correctly and optimized for, the user to just enjoy playing, there's outsized number of traffic that can happen in the beginning. And so we'll be ready for that, from a community standpoint.
God, you make me so excited for what's coming. So excited. Wow.
And people are going to see behind the scenes, as we build, they're going to see it, because we can live stream Game Maker. We can Twitch stream everything we're doing. So it's not just people in Discord talking about what they want to build and then logging into our Web3 portal and voting. They're going to watch us build it. They're going to see everything that goes into the making of a game.
Right.
It's a documentary, and they're in it, and they're writing it, and they're filming it.
Like, they are the behind the scenes. This isn't some magical black box so they're like, gosh, I clicked this button and voted for something and then poof, it happened. They'll watch it happen. We'll stream it.
Yeah, it's like a movie and you're the main character.
Well, I know somebody on the marketing side who would be very excited and is very excited to be along for the journey. It's one of those things where we're finally going to watch development, watch progress in real time with interaction. and then get to see it go live, and then the world interact with it. Oh my
And we
gosh.
could talk about like the really fun, sexy stuff, right? Like, oh, it's going to be space themed and it's going to have rockets and whatever. I mean, all the way down to the really boring stuff. Like, here's the trees and the bushes, and this is how this street can wind into that street. We're going to allow people to vote on everything. So it truly is going to be created by the community. And it's not like we stick up the votes and the majority of the votes said, hey, let's go with the space theme. And then Satsuma and I are sitting over here and be like, nah, we're going to go do this other theme. No, we are building exactly what the community wants. We're just making it so the community doesn't have to have all the skills necessary to build this. That's the quote unquote centralized part of this, if you will, is that we are building it, but everything else from the game design standpoint is decentralized. It is going to be exactly what the community wants based on the number of votes you have. So if you have one of our Dawns, which is our common card, it's 4 votes. You have 4 votes into whatever gets created. If you have one of our night cards and you were lucky enough to pull one of those, which has a 1% chance of being pulled, you have 200 votes, and you'll get to have more of a say at what gets created. And the more people are active, the more people are excited, the more votes you have, the more influence you will have over what gets created.
It's exciting from a standpoint of, one, there's some gamification here. Like, you could potentially go mint and get the normal, I think it's like the Dawn, right?
Yep.
But I'm looking at the site now, and I should probably try to share this on the screen. Let me see here. Is it going to let me do it?
Yeah, and we were extremely lucky to have Young and Sick agree to do the art. So the artwork on the NFTs is just stunning. I personally think it's worth it just for that.
Right.
The game is almost a bonus.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time that Young and Sick had a drop, it was going for an ETH each, like at mint, and trading much higher than that now. And while this isn't the same complexity of that amazing art from the Last Supper that they had, like for 0.07, just if you're going to mint one, the art, I truly think is worth that. Now, obviously, I want to have some value to our game, but Young and Sick is extremely talented, and we were very fortunate that we're friends and they wanted to create something with us. And in true fashion to the game, Hunter, like the best part is they said, hey, what kind of creative design? What do we want to build? And we looked back and said, guys, this is part of the creation game. Create what you want. Why would we tell the Ferrari to drive 20 miles an hour? Have at it. And they didn't disappoint. They created something amazing.
It's so cool. Yeah. I love Young and Sick. I've hung out with them in California when I've been out there. Brilliant. It's the perfect collaboration, honestly. And I'm a huge fan of his art. I'm a huge fan of The Last Supper. It was really cool to kind of help them out with some of their I guess, like with the space that they did that one day when we had Nate from OpenSea join, and all of we had Klon from Cool Cats join. Oh my God, we had so many people join, and this idea of creating things for the community, again, by the community almost. It's such a strong vibe. Like, I really connect to it. And it's also why, like, once we started talking, me and Boomer met through Ready Player DAO, which we're both a part of.
Stats is a part of that too. Don't get me in trouble, man.
Yeah, be careful. He'll pay for it later.
Careful. You get me in trouble. Sats is a part of that too.
Oh, I forgot Sats in that as well. And yeah, there you go.
I'm used to it.
And maybe I'm going to get yelled at for not going to meetings as much as I ought to for that. But, there's so much like potential for what's coming in the metaverse. And as I started getting to talk to Boomer, and Boomer started educating me on what I thought was a very simplistic, like, oh, there's land, you can build on it, cool, people will visit, that's it. And then I started learning, like, well, wait, there's tokens, there's in-game currency for Sandbox, and there's going to be actual businesses, and then looking at like Axie and understanding how that plays out and why land is important there, why different characters are important there, why differentiating yourself, why having people that can execute better than others is so important, because it's very much like the real world. Are you going to go and hire, Joe Schmo down the block who's built one house before to build your mansion that, or like build your music park that you're trying to make, millions with a year? Are you going to go to the people that like are from Switzerland that build the the cream of the crop in amusement parks and say, hey, you've done it better than anybody else. You know what you're doing. You can execute. You have the team. We want to work with you. And that's why I'm like very intrigued and like so excited for LandVault, because that's what you're doing. Like you're coming in saying we are the builders.
Yeah, that's the tough part, is because as you put it, and I'll just take your words very quick, we are the builders. That isn't sexy and fun and JPEG flipping, degen loving. It's tough to get really excited about that. But when you kind of uncover it and you say, okay, well, what do the builders do? What are they going to enable? How is that utility going to play out? And if people give it a shot, then they realize, oh, this is a lot deeper than just the pick and shovel play of the gold rush. There's a lot more that can uncover. And honestly, we need more people like LandVault in this space. We need competitors in this space, because we need to build out the metaverse as fast as possible, so everyone can take, just like Ready Player One, the movie, like the more people who are building, the more money that's flowing into the space, the quicker we all get to the, awesome, epic oasis where we will truly become degens and never leave our computer. We at least move to the phone at this point, but if something like that existed, we probably wouldn't leave the computer. But we need more people to want to be the builders and more people that want to play this. And we're happy to step into this role and to see that there's an opportunity in the market to really make a difference, a positive difference that's not just a pump and dump. But on the same token, it's not super sexy. But we're slow and steady. We're building something. We're going to be here through crypto winter. We're going to be here on the other side of it, and we're going to keep building and hopefully doing awesome things that everyone's going to love and enjoy at some point.
Yeah, and so maybe to like kind of have like a closing statement here for why, again, I'm talking to LandVault. And I always say this, and this is not financial advice. This is just what I look for when I'm like talking to people, and why I get so excited is I look for people who know what they're talking about. They're experts. They have a prior experience. They've proven they can do it. There's a solid roadmap, that there's utility. There's more than like, hey, here's just a token. And that they're like dedicating their lives to it. Like this is very much, and like I don't want to go past like what you're willing to share, but like this is very much what you are both about to dedicate. Like you are going off the deep end to do this the rest of your life. I have no worry that, hey, I talk about LandVault and 2 weeks from now it disappears. I know LandVault's here for 5-10 years. Like you will grind it out. Even if it gets really, really tough and miserable, you'll still be here trying and making it work.
I'll be honest, this would have been the worst rug pull known to man. If that was the case.
We did it all wrong.
You did.
Our Genesis token
wrong.
only being 800. Why would we ever build something like that and then walk away? And I'll tell you, things are tough. Things are extremely tough because we think that we're doing some really cool work. We're providing utility when everyone screams that they want utility. To see, the rug pulls that still are occurring, the quick flips, the people jumping in and out of projects to try to, stack their ETH to, get bigger and bigger piles of stuff and rotate into blue chips. I don't blame them. I tell our community all the time, like, I can't beat some of the quick flips. If that's what you need, go do that. We'll still be here. So, it is tough because there are projects out there that are creating what I think are little value, low effort stuff, and they're doing really well. And then all of a sudden they don't do well and they're not here 3 weeks from now. But we're still going to be here. We're still creating stuff. We're blessed, I would say, to have the community that we do have that believe in the metaverse as a long-term play. While there's a lot of short-term gains, we are reinvesting, putting everything that we do back in our time, blood, sweat, and tears into LandVault to being better. And I think we're going to be much stronger as time goes on. And 1 month in NFT space is like 1 year in normal time. So being around for 4, 5, 6 months now feels like has been eternity, but we're still very excited for the many years to come.
I'm excited, very excited. Are you sure you don't want to spill some alpha for people, Boomer? Are you sure?
I'll plug my ears.
No, I'm not doing it because she'll say that and then I'll get in trouble.
I think we can say we do have some new projects that are actually going to be coming very, very soon.
Very soon. Mm-hmm. Very soon. All right. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what's coming. I do know that you guys are very much focused on providing, value and making sure that what you guys put out is beneficial to users. So I'm very excited to see what you come out with. And of course, very authentic to the community, with the community in mind, and creative, of course. So I'm very excited. Dr. Satsuma, Boomer, it was so great to have some time to talk to you guys tonight about LandVault. Surely will not be the last time. And I do look at you as my resident metaverse and building experts. So we will be in touch. Any last and closing thoughts before we wrap it up for tonight?
We appreciate being on and look forward to taking future proof to all the metaverses.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm thinking that I'm just gonna buy a bunch of these and we make future world.
I mean, if you control enough, literally.
If you control enough, yeah.
And whatever's left, we're gonna burn them.
Like, there's a potential like for an avatar project to come in here and get a lot, and like potentially like start saying like, hey, we want to incorporate, like, Cool Cats can be like, we want to incorporate Cool Cats into stuff and like have Milk World. And that would be really cool.
If they've got the votes.
You're joking about it, but in reality, like, if they turn around and have the votes to do that, they didn't have to buy super premium land because it's right next to Pong. They have the votes to control what gets done. Like, it could happen.
That's super interesting. And they have a dedicated build team essentially to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're streaming it and bringing the community along for the ride. Like, Discord can participate if enough of their people are in. Like, absolutely. Any number of avatars could do that. I mean, you could create whatever. You can create an enemy. Who knows what it is? The goats, right? And it's the goats versus the cats. And who's going to duke it out? And they create a full-fledged war over the voting. And I mean, you never know what happens. Like, it's going to be fun to see, who sees the value in this, and
or even a DAO to see the ape DAO.
Yeah. Like, you want engagement? You don't get much more engaged than that.
Right. That's super interesting, where you have a DAO which is already decentralized coming in to buy decentralized voting into decentralized game development.
That just hurts my head a little.
My mind is blown.
Stack decentralization. I love it. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. It was so great to have the LandVault team join us tonight. And I'm sure we'll hear more about them. If you haven't already, go check out the creation game on their site, which I'll certainly link below. But you can find it at landvault.io. Again, super happy to have you here and excited to see what comes in the future. And thank you for listening. We'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.